Welcome to Soulful Spinning, a fiber arts podcast. I am Lisa, and this is my channel where I share my passion for fleece, fiber, and yarn. Spinning, knitting, and weaving are crafts that calm my soul and allow me to create with color and texture. I also document here bits and pieces of my life and the changing seasons of the beautiful Midwest where I live and work. The brilliant colors of October and November have given way to frost, bare trees, and the long shadows of December. As the days get shorter, the nights get longer. We shelter in place with the comforts of home. Hi friends, welcome to my channel. How are you friends? I've been missing you guys. I've been reading your comments and your messages, and they brighten my day every time I get one. So I thought I would sit down for a minute and just chit chat with you about what's been going on in my world of crafting. So I hope you guys are well. I hope you're staying as healthy as possible. And if you're ill, I hope you recover very quickly. It's been a very tough time for so many people. So yeah, 2020 has been a very interesting year. So I hope things get better soon for everyone. So in today's episode, I wanted just to give you an update on my spinning, knitting, and my new venture into weaving. So let's get started with my knitting first, I think. I haven't been having a lot of time to knit, but in the time that I have, I've made some smaller projects. So I've made two pairs of slippers. Last time I recorded, I was showing you these mukluk, and you could see that they've been worn quite a lot. They're getting quite ratty looking. They're a really fun pattern. This was out of my hand spun baby doll south down. It's a very easy pattern. You knit it flat, and then you do this magic of forming the toe, and you knit the front, and then you join in the round. And then of course the back's open, and then you just do a little whip stitch here along the heel, and there you have your slippers. So I love these so much that I looked through my hand spun stash and found another pair to make. So this pair is made out of hand spun Icelandic and alpaca wools. So the bottom of the slipper is a lamb's wool fleece that I purchased from a shepherdess up in Boulder Junction, Wisconsin. And I spun it into a thick single. And then the taupe color is some Shetland alpaca that I spun as a thick single. And then the white is some Icelandic llama blend that I picked up at a fiber festival, I think. So let me show you. They're very, very fuzzy and a little bit, I should say rustic, but quite comfortable on the feet, I have to say. So here are the yarns, what I have left so far. So these are the colors that I used. So this is my black hand spun Icelandic, and then this Shetland, and then this one. So when it gets cold out, I like to work with more rustic wools. And as a matter of fact, I'm working on an Icelandic breed study that I'm going to record sometime this winter. Talk about the breed and do some experimentation with processing and spinning it up. So that's finished objects. So I have a lot of whips. I tend to start things and I don't always finish them, so I am trying to improve on that. So I picked up this beautiful shawl again. Again, it's very warm yarn. It's a Shetland, no, it's alpaca and merino. And it is the Violetta shawl. That's what the pattern looks like. Isn't it pretty? The pattern calls for a size 4 needle and a mono puna. And I think that's a lighter weight yarn, maybe sport weight or DK. So I'm using this yarn called Angel's Kiss. Get out of the camera here so you could see it. I picked this up on vacation one year. There's a sweet little yarn shop up in Eagle River, Wisconsin called the Golden Fleece. And I popped in there one day on the way home from our yearly foray up to the North Woods, and I picked up 5 skeins of this. I'm happy to say that I'm finally using the yarn. I think it's been in my stash for 5 or 6 years. It's 60% alpaca and 40% merino, and it is now discontinued. So this is my shawl, and it's huge. It is huge. So I'm removing a repeat. Basically, you do every 10 rows, you do bobbles. And so it's basically a 20 row repeat. So I'm cutting out one of the rows because it's already very large. And after I finish these, I think I have 3. I only have about 16 rows to go. Let me organize myself here. I'm experimenting with a new microphone. So I've gotten more than one comment about my sound. And I think one of the problems is I move around a lot. And when I move around a lot, the sound kind of goes in and out. So do let me know in the comments if the sound is improved. I love to hear your feedback. So as you can see, this is really fun. It's got these beautiful bobbles. And they're a lot of fun to make, but frankly now it's getting a little tiring. But I'm happy to report I only have 1, 2, 3. I only have 4 more rows that have bobbles. The rest of it is just knits and purls. So this is like a weighted blanket. It's really, really soft and very warm. And so it also sheds a little bit. I'm wearing black and I've got alpaca all over me, but a very happy price to pay for such a beautiful, beautiful shawl. So I've been really working on this. I want to get this done and bound off, and I'm excited about the garter stitch border because then I just do garter stitch, and then I think it's got an I-cord edging. So I will have this done next time I record. I am determined. So that's in the way of knitting. Of course, some of you are thinking, well, what about that hand-spun sweater you were working on? My hand-spun Jacob jumper here. I don't know how far I was last time I talked to you, but it is, the body is completely done. I think it was done last time I talked to you. And I'm working on one of the sleeves. This is hand-spun from Jacob Fleece. And I've got a little bit of the sleeve knit up. And that's really all I have to do is just the sleeves. Everything else will be completed. So now that I brought it out to show you guys, maybe I'll work on that uh, after I'm done with my shawl. So I'm trying not to do any other knitting projects until I finish a couple. But you know how it is. So that's about it for knitting. I have a future project I want to do, and that's these slippers here. They're called the Simple House slippers. I loved making those slippers so much, and I never want to have cold feet again. So these are from Simone Alexander. I don't know her last name. Temple of Knit. And I'm thinking of making these next out of some of my hand spun stash. What do you think? We could do a slipper knit along. It's so easy, and they're quick, and you can put them on your feet. It's just like instant gratification in the knitting world. So that's all I have for you for knitting. Now let's look at spinning. So I finished a couple of skeins of CVM wool that I showed. I showed this last time. This was some CVM that I was given along with a wheel purchase I made at Fold in Marengo, Illinois. And I finished spinning. I spun this on my Magicraft Aura with unsupported long draw for the most part. And then I plied it a 2-ply. And it's very, very fuzzy. And you can barely see the plies twist because of the woolen spun nature of the yarn. It has a very, very elastic texture. It's very, very soft. Definitely appropriate for next to skin or for a baby. The color is kind of meh, it's just a cream color. So I was thinking of pulling out my acid dyes and maybe dyeing the 2 skeins and then maybe making a little cowl or something. But it was an enjoyable knit. I actually enjoy spinning white and gray and brown, the natural colors. I don't know, it's very soothing to me for some reason. I very rarely get bored with that. So I finished that. And then for something a little more colorful, I completed this skein. This is a skein of wool from Dakota Carding and Wool. And I think the colorway was called Ginger Tea. And I spun this up in October. It's very appropriate for this time of year. I think this would make a pretty weaving project. It would make a nice slipper too. It's a blend, I think, of BFL and some other wools. When you buy wool from Dakota Carding and Wool, it's carded in this loose preparation, and it's very textured, and it has lots of different staple lengths within the bat. So it's not meant to be spun into a very smooth yarn. So you get this nice texture, and I just really love the colors. So what do you think? I don't know how many yards it is. It's about 4 ounces. I would say it's a DK weight. I'm bad about measuring my yardage. So those were my finished spins. And on my wheel right now is my CVM fleece that I bought, I think, towards the end of the summer. It's a gray CVM fleece. I've got 1 bobbin spun up with 1 ounce, and I'm on the second. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 1 ounce on each bobbin, and then I'm plying them together to get skeins that are 2 ounces each. So that way I feel like I'm getting more done, and it's more, I can measure the yardage a little bit easier that way. So after I prepare the locks, send them through my drum carder, I weigh them, and make sure that I have an ounce, and then I spin that whole ounce onto a bobbin. So I have some video here of me spinning that wool that I'll insert right here.
Funny how the distance makes it feel like you're right here. I never thought I'd be the one to say that I can feel your presence with me though you're not around. I'm carrying you with me anyway. And you say you are not alone in this world. You are not alone. Every now and then the missing you gets hard to bear. So damn much it brings me to my knees. But every now and then I get this picture in my head of you standing there smiling at me. And you say you are not alone in this world. You are not alone. You are not alone in this world. You are not alone. Sometimes I don't understand the reasons that it happened. I don't think I ever really will. Through the noise of this life or the silence of your absence, moments I can hear you whisper still. You are not alone in this world. You are not alone. You are not alone in this world. You are not alone.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was my new purchase of a loom. I purchased a shacked. I know I took German in high school, so I say shacked. But it's a maker out of Colorado. They're famous for their wheels and their looms. They have all kinds of floor looms and matchless spinning wheel, and they make everything out of rock hard maple for the most part. So I purchased a loom. It's a 25-inch loom, so that means that the weaving width is 25 inches. And I was inspired by the Republic of Me, Ivana, who was took up weaving, and it was in the back of my mind percolating. And then when I saw her weaving, I just had to have a loom. So I purchased one. So I justified it because it was my birthday in November. On November 14th, I turned 60 years old. As a matter of fact, these flowers were sent to me by a dear sister who lives in California. She called into these flowers, and some of them died off, and I took them out of the vase. But these mums here, these chrysanthemums, have been in this vase for 2 weeks, and they're still so fresh and fragrant. So, yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. I didn't know that cut flowers could last that long. But anyway, I digress, as I always do. So I bought the loom for my birthday, and this was my first project. I just grabbed some Peyton's wool out of my stash, and I just wove it. I didn't even measure. I just took I think the 8-dent huddle, and just kind of measured so many inches from each side of the reed, and I just warped it up. And so I created this long rectangular piece of fabric. I'm calling it a table runner. And it was so much fun. I think the weaving process, it's such an interesting process, because you have to go through the process of warping the loom, and you have to pay attention, and there's some technical aspects of getting the warp on the loom. But then once you're actually weaving, it's just this repeating motion, and it's just very, very calming for some reason. I could see why people just get passionate about weaving. So all I did was I just tied off the ends here, and then I created this fringe. Show you this fringe. And I used a fringe twister by Shocked. Also, I purchased this when I got the loom. This little doohickey here. I recorded a video on how to use this, and I'll insert that here so that you can see how you go from just this sort of loose fringe to these cute little almost braided effect fringes. I'll insert that here, and I'll be right back. I wanted to show you how I'm using this Shock tool. It's a fringe twister that I bought with my loom, and what it allows you to do is make a super cool edging on the edge of your woven projects. So this is my first project that I wove on my new rigid heddle loom, and I finished one side already with the fringes. So let me show you what they look like when they're done. Here we go, on this side here. So this is what the fringes look like. This was just a practice, so it's got a lot of mistakes. For example, like it'll have places like this where I skipped the weft. These are just the ends that need to be trimmed off after I wash it and press it. But and it's just not. It was just a practice piece, really. But I'm just going to use it as just a table runner. So here is what you first thing you want to do is weight down your piece so it doesn't fall off your table. So I have mine on this. This is a desk platform for when I'm teaching at home. It goes up and down. So it's actually proven to be really handy for this task here. And so what I'm going to do is take a heavy book and just weigh it down so it doesn't get away from me. I've already done a couple here. Move you down a little bit here. So I've already done a couple here. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So first of all, I knotted off my edges. So I took 2 warps here and 2 warps here, and I did a simple overhand knot. And now what I'm going to do is twist these two pairs, and I'm going to spin them in one direction, and when I put them together, they release the twist and twist around each other. It's kind of magical. So let me show you. Now, if you really want to see a good tutorial on this, I would direct you to Kelly Casanova. She's a weaving teacher and has a wonderful channel here on YouTube. So I will link her channel below because everything I learned from her. So first thing you're going to do is take the little clips. I've got 3, so you could do 3 at once. I'm going to only use 2. There are other fringe twisters that are more rectangular. I know Ashford has one. Leclerc has one. This is just the one I bought. And so what I do is let's make sure you can see this here. So I've got them pinched here, and then I'm going to rotate. I'm going to go in the direction of the twist. So I'm going to count. I found that about 18 revolutions is enough twist. And so what you can see is that you've got lots and lots of twists built up into these individual strands. Now, when you take off, you want to hold that twist, so you don't want to lose that twist. So you take off your clips, and you now have 2 very tightly twisted pairs. And now what you're going to do is simply tie a knot, being careful not to release the twist. And once you do that, what happens is all the twist gets released, and you get it's like almost like a braided effect. So yeah, another rabbit hole. One of my Instagram friends and viewers said, I predict you're going to have a floor loom in the next year. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll get a table loom, like a 4-shaft table loom. Or I was looking at the Sayori looms. Those are really cool. So we'll see. I've got enough to keep me busy. So next up on the loom is a scarf project. So I have the warp almost finished. I just have to tie it on. And I'll insert a video here on what the yarn looks like and what my project is going to be. So this is the yarn that I'm going to weave my scarf out of. It's a merino silk blend, and this is a cashmere merino nylon blend by Handmaiden. And I'm using a pattern out of my book, Liz Gibson's book on rigid heddle weaving. It's a 2-skein scarf, and I'm loosely basing my pattern off of hers. So we'll see how it goes. I noticed the colors are very similar in the warp and weft, so it'll be interesting to see how this weaves up. So this weekend I hope to have a scarf once I get that. I think that a 10-inch scarf shouldn't take me too long to weave. And I want to learn a new thing. I want to learn how to hem stitch. So after you weave a couple of rows, you do this hem stitch with the weft yarn, and it just makes this very nice, neat finish. And it would also go very nicely with the fringe. I'm going to do the same kind of fringe that I did here. So hopefully next time I talk to you guys, I'll have that scarf completed. And of course, I'm thinking ahead to future weaving projects. So I stopped at my local yarn shop. There's a little yarn shop in Griffith, Indiana that I go to. And I purchased these 2 skeins of lovely yarn, textured yarn. It's Baroku. It's Baroku Sesame. And it's got those autumnal colors, really pretty. It's got blues, and this is going to be my warp. And then for my weft, I'm going to use this. This is Puna, 100% baby alpaca. So I didn't know what I was doing when I went and bought the yarn because I have 3 skeins of this. But really I should have bought 3 skeins of this and 2 skeins of the other I want to make a substantial shawl. So I might have to go and pick up another ball of this because I actually was doing some numbers. I have a really great book that I bought. Actually, I bought my loom. Oh, by the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Lois at Bountiful. She's also in Colorado, and I've purchased from her before. I've purchased my, what did I buy from her? Oh, I bought my drum carder from her, and my Major Craft from her, and she's just fantastic. And she recommended this book right here, which is Weaving Made Easy by Liz Gibson. And Liz has in the back of the book, she's got a project planning sheet right here. So I tried to do the math to figure out how much yarn I would need to make a shawl. So I want to make a shawl that's at least 20 inches wide and 72 inches long. And I determined that I probably don't have enough warp. I have plenty of weft. So weaving's one of those things where you can approach it from an intuitive standpoint, just sort of warp your loom with whatever and just start weaving. But then you can get into the technical aspects of it, you know, the mathematics of it. And then of course with floor looms you get all kinds of different drafts or patterns they call them. So it's interesting. I'm a math teacher. I don't know if you guys know that. I teach algebra and calculus. So I do math all day long. You think that this would just come totally natural to me. And I mean, it wasn't hard. I mean, it's just basically ratios of proportions. But when I approach my crafts, I just tend to want to let go of that side of my brain and just experience the color and the texture and the enjoyment of making. So it's interesting. I know I've talked to some of you about, you know, are you more intuitive or are you more analytic when it comes to your crafts? And I think it's just, you know, it's a spectrum and you're on, you know, you have a balance there. That's it for me today, friends. I hope you're well. I'll talk to you soon, sometime in December during the holidays. We're just about to get ready to put up a Christmas tree and do a little more decorating around the house. And this time of year is just a nice time of year to hunker down with your woolies and, you know, enjoy some comforts of the season. So I will talk to you very soon. I hope you're well, and please do let me know how you're doing in the comments below, or you can email me at soulfulspinning@gmail.com. I love hearing from you. Take care, everyone.